Most pastors I know do good. There was one, however, who didn't. As his bodyguard put it, we don't do good, we do good. Where other pastors and social workers used good manners, that particular pastor was escorted by a bodyguard with a baseball bat. I know some prefer the more genteel ways of the average pastor or social workers, but you can't argue with results. Yes, I know, I is a rather flexible term, get over it. I'm one of those who prefer the mild-mannered pastors. They allow one to do with one's family as one pleases. It's no surprise then that I didn't take kindly to the pastor and his bodyguard when they knocked on my door. I was knocking one of my offsprings, a daughter I think it was, and it was most inconvenient. "Have you got a warrant?" I asked. A few neighbours gathered round. They smelled gas. "We don't do warrants," said the pastor. "We do morals. We sort of operate beside the law." 17 of my wives assured me that the law was on my side. The 18th one couldn't speak. I had to amputate her tongue, as the law says that a woman shouldn't talk to strangers. "You're welcome to try and break in," I said. I had both God and the law on my side. But don't be surprised if both God and the law will retaliate. That got his attention. He turned to his bodyguard and asked, "Should we be concerned?" "Don't worry," said the bodyguard. "We don't do God, and as far as the law is concerned, there is a precedent from Babylonian law that says that if you see a woman about to be raped, you can buy the rights to her body, and after that you can decide whether you want her to do the dishes or rape her." At this point I was getting impatient. A shift of my daughters was about to come home with their earnings, and another shift was scheduled to replace them. I didn't want to let them in without counting them. "A fine crop of young ladies," said the pastor, who cleaned many a street, finding a respectable job for many a prostitute. "Are they all yours?" I told him 12 were mine and 27 were confiscated from my neighbours, and asked him if he had a problem with that. The bodyguard whispered something in his ear. He turned around. There was a gathering of total strangers, to me anyway, and they all said, in fact shouted, to leave the poor family alone. I liked that. The pastor looked at them in total disdain. When he was young, his parents and God taught him not to look the other way or cross the street. "Follow your heart," they said. "Don't listen to the naysayers." I told my daughters to get into the kitchen and leave the money they made on the table. "You're not going to gas them, I hope," said the pastor. I did gas a few of my daughters who didn't bring enough money, but that was in the past. Nowadays, we're out of gas, which is what I told the pastor. That was when the pastor made his mistake. "Can you prove to me that you don't have gas in the house?" He looked very smug as he was saying that. His bodyguard was fondling his baseball bat. "Can you prove to me that there's no God?" I said to him. "I looked for God yesterday. He wasn't in his room. Does that prove that he doesn't exist?" "Of course it doesn't. You'll just have to take my word for it. No gas, choke on it." The whole universe, man and God, was with me in spirit. However, the pastor was in the house, and his bodyguard was quick to put me in the basement. The pastor's bodyguard then held me to the ground, and my mild-mannered cousin, whose 3 wives I have confiscated, spat on my face, and then beheaded me, or it could have been the other way around. When the pastor left the house, my 6 cousins discussed the future of the household. As a result, 5 heads rolled, and out of each one of them, 2 new ones emerged. The ladies of the house were on the street again. Those shekels are not going to print themselves. So much for the pastor doing good. He should have stayed in his house and should have done good instead of good. Time moved on. The pastor has gone to a better place, and we met for all time's sake. I was a psychopathic pimp and a murderer, I said, but people on the street miss me. They knew who was boss, people like that. I, on the other hand, said the pastor always wanted to be a social worker, but look at all those sex workers on the street. I'm dead, politically speaking, and still everybody calls me a pimp and a murderer.